Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode of So What You Saying. My name is Tom,
And I'm Sean.
and we're going to be touching on a few topics today. We'll be talking about Metallica's Load album, which was re-released. A remastered deluxe version of it was released about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're seeing Iron Maiden tomorrow we spoke about this on the previous podcast. We're going to see them live in London tomorrow on the Run for Your Lives tour. So we're going to touch very briefly on that, but we'll save our thoughts for that when we do a review of the show, probably in the next few days or so. And Sean is going to give me my monthly WWE update. Okay, so Load, Metallica's Load album, which was released in 1996. It followed
That
the Yes, that long ago, it followed the mammoth success of the Black Album, which still to this day is selling like millions of albums. It went platinum for the 20th time not long ago. Like the most successful heavy metal album of all time. It basically set Metallica up for the rest of their lives. They wouldn't have to release another album again after that one. It made them multi-millionaires. But at the same time, in my opinion, a very, very good album. I love the Black Album.
yeah.
I know we've already done a ranking of Metallica's albums, and I believe we put Load in the average category, and we
Mm.
did that ranking list just before this remastered box set came out. I've listened to it a lot since it's been re-released. I've listened to a lot of the Metallica. I think are really good at doing these re-releases with their albums. You know, they started with Kill 'Em All, gone through right up to Load, and I imagine they'll do Reload next year. And you really do, if you pay for it, if you get like it in like a physical version of it, I think you really do get a lot of bang for your buck. You get to hear all the demos that they worked on. You get the album itself, which has been somewhat remastered. I use that term loosely. I can't really tell a huge difference between the 1996 version and the remastered version they've just released. On top of that, you get a ton of live gigs which have been remixed and somewhat mastered, so they're really good quality for the most part. Just a ton of content and even versions of songs that didn't end up being released on the final album. Like there's three different versions of Mama Said, for example, on this re-release. There's a the extended uncut version of The Outlaw Torn. Just a ton of content. So I've literally been binging it. And also online as well. I've been watching so much footage. There was like this 2 hour footage somebody put together of them working in the studio on this album. They were working on this album for about 9 months. Them, very live feel compared to the Black Album.
Mm.
They recorded a lot of these songs live and went back and did overdubs afterwards. Kirk did rhythm guitar. It was always James Hetfield tracking all the rhythm guitars on this album, whereas Kirk was doing rhythm as well. Um, you know, Working with Bob Rock again, it made sense considering how much success they followed up with the Black Album, but the production's slightly more raw sounding slightly more unpolished compared to what they did with the Black Album. Um, what was your first experience with Load? Can you remember the first time you heard it? Because I can remember mine fairly well.
It was after I'd listened to all the stuff I like. No, no, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. No, but I mean, as in, like, I never really sort of got into it until, well, I say got into it, but like when I was in the height of my discovering them, it was all about, the first four albums.
Mm.
Um, the classics like we've already discussed before in the ranking video. Yeah, and then the Black Album, and I still to this day think that's a really good album. There's some great tracks on there, and then yeah, it was quite a sort of a long time till I gave Load a proper go. Because before I'd only really listened to like a handful of tracks from it. Ain't My Bitch, great opener. Wasting My Hate, another sort of high octane song, sort of reminded me of what I'm used to Metallica sounding like. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And they really went off on a kind of right. This is like the experimental like album. Like you got a hint of it in the Black Album, and then they really went for it with this one. So for a long time, it was I don't know. It was like this and Reload were like the black sheep of the Metallica discography. Well, until Saint Anger came out, and yeah, and to an extent that's still true. I must say I probably listen to this more than I do Reload, or have done anyway. And yeah, I just the first time I never really like went back to it much after after I listened to it the first time. It is a long album. Do you know
It's a
what I mean?
very long album. I mean, when this album came out, I think it was the long, outside of double albums, it was one of the longest albums ever released,
Yeah,
to the point they had to cut off the end of the Outlaw Torn
yeah,
to fit it all in on a disc. They really pushed the limitations of what you could actually physically fit on an actual CD.
yeah. Because it was something like, wasn't it? It was 78 minutes 59 seconds. So they had to. The label was like, yeah, you've got to cut something down, but we want all of our material on this album. So we'll just do like a long jam session at the end of the Outlaw Torn, and just let it fade out, kind of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, I've probably softened on it over time because I can appreciate some of the lyricism in there because it's bloody dark. Like
Yeah.
going back over it recently, even this morning, like okay, Mama said, yeah, musically it's not really for me, but going back and reading the lyrics, it's all about James dealing with his mum passing away, and I can relate to that. So that kind of hit home a little bit more than it used to, like before.
Hmm.
So yeah, I appreciate the lyricism. I think James's vocals are probably the star of the show on this album. Okay, stylistically, maybe it goes too far into the kind of country thing that a lot of people don't like, and I understand that. But I mean, just sonically and like in tone, I think he sings really well. So yeah, so I think going back to it again I have softened on it for sure.
Yeah, no, I think you raised some pretty good points there. I mean, my first experience with the album, so the first Metallica album I ever bought was Unjustice for All, and to say I listened to that album to death is an understatement. To the point I had to buy it again because my first disc was so scratched up from the amount of times I'd taken out of the CD player and putting it in the car, then in my Walkman at the time.
Yeah,
So I had to buy it again. I listened to it that much. One of the most important albums I've ever listened to in my lifetime for me. And then my dad, with the job he was doing at the time, was doing a lot of traveling.
yeah,
And he said, "Oh, CDs are actually quite cheap to where I'm traveling at the moment. Do you want me to pick anything up for you?"
yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, just get me Metallica albums." I didn't really know any of the Metallica album names. I said, when you go to the CD shop, just look in the M section, find Metallica, and just buy me as many albums as you can afford, basically.
yeah,
And the first three albums he bought back, he's like, "I got you Metallica albums," and it was the Black Album,
mm.
Load, and Reload.
Oh,
Those were the three albums he got.
brutal.
Just for context, this was around about a year and a half before Saint Anger came out. So
Right.
it was around about, yeah, 2000, 2001 when I was really getting into heavy metal. And the first album I listened to was the Black Album because I recognized Enter Sandman. So I'd heard that song a few times. I'd also heard Nothing Else Matters. It was being played, those songs were being played a lot on Kerrang. And once again, I listened to that album so many times. Like I
Yeah.
know it back and forth. I can play every single song on that album on the bass guitar.
No.
So I listened to it pretty much just as much as I did on Justice for All. And then I went on to Load. Now, because I'd gone from the Black Album and went into Load, it wasn't that jarring because I wasn't fully aware of Metallica's history leading up to that album. I didn't
Yeah.
hear Kill 'Em All, Lightning, or Puppets. So Load wasn't a really weird transition for me. If anything, it felt kind of natural
Yeah.
because I'd listened to the Black Album so much. But of course, like you, there were a lot of songs on it. There's 14 songs on this album. And of course, I clearly had my favorites at the time. King Nothing was a big standout for me.
Yeah.
Basically, the songs they released as singles, King Nothing, Until It
Yeah.
Sleeps,
Yeah.
Hero of the Day, songs like that. But and then I listened to Reload, and even at the time, I didn't particularly like that album that much.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, I went back and bought Puppets and Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All, and then I realized, yeah, frankly, these albums are way more enjoyable than Load, and especially Reload. I mean, I don't like the album cover. I think the whole image changed. Not so much the cutting their hair, it's more the way they dress. They wore makeup.
Yeah.
Kirk and Lars in particular really embraced that change they went for. Lars in particular was super into buying and selling art. He sort of was really into avant-garde film at the time, just really weird stuff. And they were pretending like they were in a relationship with each other, which is, you know, fine, but you're not gay. Why are you pretending to be in a relationship with each other?
Totally not something we did for about 10 years, is it?
But it was just so out of left field considering the image they had the decade prior.
Yeah.
Whereas James and Jason, yeah, they were on board with it, but they didn't fully embrace it like Kirk and Lars did. You know, the spunk and the blood mixed together on the album cover.
You know what? I didn't realise that's what it was until the ranking video we did. I just thought it was just like some weird patterns. I didn't realise that's exactly what.
Yeah, yeah. Load it's
like just finishing my breakfast, going, oh man, God no.
Yeah, the artist, I can't remember the artist's name. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comment section, but the artist they hired, that's his actual bodily fluids, shall we say, pressed between two pieces of glass, and he does a super close up with a photograph. And Reload was his piss. It was his piss and blood. So yeah, very weird. They even changed the logo as well. I don't like the logo. They basically overhauled their entire brand. So if you were into Metallica growing up in the 80s, to say this must have been a shock is an understatement. Like people would be like, "What the hell is this? Is this the same band that released Master of Puppets?"
Completely different band at this point. Yeah.
But even if you got into them at the Black Album, you know, they still had their long hair, you know, big drum kits. You know, they looked like a proper heavy metal band. And they went from, and within the space of 5 years, they transitioned into this alternative rock, you know, sort of Soundgarden-esque, you know, Alice in Chains. Bands change. Bands want to try many different things. Some bands it works for. You know, a lot of people argue it really worked well for Radiohead. You know, they went from being, you know, essentially a rock band with a little bit of experimenting here or there to an electronic band, and then they sort of merged the two together. Arctic Monkeys is another example of that. So bands change, and it really works for them. And unfortunately, Metallica's case, even though the album did commercially very well for them, it was sort of like kind of panned by critics and certainly panned by the hardcore fans. What I think would be a good idea to do now is, you know, let's go through all 14 songs, just give some initial thoughts and opinions on it. So the first song, Ain't My Bitch. I think overall a strong opener. It's certainly a good introduction to what you're going to get with the rest of the album. Probably wouldn't sound too out of place if it was released on the Black Album. The riffs are definitely a lot bluesier. You can start to hear a little bit of that country influence coming in as well. There's a lot of slide guitar playing in this song. I'm not a huge fan of slide guitar solos, but it's in there. I think Lars lays down some pretty solid drumming on this song as well. I think Hetfield, once again, you mentioned he was the star of this album. I find it hard to disagree. His vocals are amazing on pretty much every song on this album, and this song is no exception. It's just sort of your straightforward heavy metal hard rock opener. And yeah, I just think a solid way to open the album. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much agree with you. I think it's kind of like a natural, like we said before, a natural follow on from the Black Album. So it's not until obviously after this song you start to get them really kind of experimenting with that southern rock sound. And to an extent it's in here, but you still have the kind of the hard hitting riffs, the drums. It's decent opener. I think, you know, had they not opened with this, I don't know if I'd appreciate it as much. But yeah, no, it's a solid start. Just what you want, really. Well, you could argue it lulls you into a full sense of security, depending on where your opinion lies about this album. But yeah, I've one of my standout tracks for sure.
I agree. This is a song they clearly had a lot of confidence in at the time as well, because they played it live quite a lot when they toured this album. So yeah, and this song also went through quite a lot of changes as well. There's a version where the bass starts, so the song's a little bit longer. There's a part where they extend. There's a version where they extend the outro a little bit. So, but clearly they finally, I think overall, the version they went with was the right choice. That's followed up by 2x4. It's once again another sort of straightforward heavy metal hard rock song. Lars opens with a pretty meh drum intro, if you want me to be honest. But that being said, I think his drumming overall in this album is really good. I think he does some pretty tasty drum fills, and he's just smacking the absolute shit out of his cymbals at times. Like you can just Yeah, like if you watch the footage of him in the studio, he is like hitting as hard as he bloody can. I mean, I feel sorry for his drum tech. He's probably changing cymbals and changing drum heads after
Yeah,
every 2 or 3
yeah,
takes. Very live sounding song, this one. There's some pretty nice vocal stuff Hetfield's doing, and then there's a nice little breakdown part in the middle where the song sort of kicks back a little bit, and it's a little bit more groovier as
yeah.
opposed to hard hitting. Um, this was another song that before the album came out, they were playing it live quite a lot as a taster for the album.
Mm-hmm.
But from my knowledge, since the album was released, I don't think they ever played that song live again
What it's
afterwards. Yeah. So they probably thought, oh, yeah, it's a good song. But then once they released the album, it's like, yeah, there are other songs we can play. But overall, like, I like the song for what it is.
yeah, it's a nice chugger. Yeah, it's a good sort of mid-paced follow-up to the first song, from the first song, I should say. So yeah, it's still sort of building momentum at this point. Yeah, I haven't really got much more to add to that, mate. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You'll be taking the lead on most of these because, yeah, other than a few here and there that I, really, really sort of resonated with, the rest I'm just a little bit like, but,
Yeah, no, I understand. But that's followed up with The House That Jack Built. Now, this is actually quite a popular song amongst people who, even if they don't like Load, they kind of like this song. This
yeah,
is the first song that you hear on the album, which you could argue is Metallica really entering like their experimental phase.
yeah,
Really good lyrics. I love Hetfield's vocals on this song again. I'm going to be saying that a lot. Pretty chugging riff in the verse. There's
yeah.
also this really weird vocal effect they use throughout the song. I think later on they use a talk box or a voice
Yeah,
box, whatever it's called.
it's kind of like it reminds me of. I was like, well, they're going all like Bon Jovi with this, with their
Yeah,
wow,
a
wow,
very dark version of Bon
yeah,
Jovi thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the darker songs on the album as well. But I mean, this was one of those songs I really didn't like when I first heard it, and every time I tried to go back and listen to it, it didn't click with me.
yeah.
But over the past 2 to 3 weeks of listening to this album, it's now slowly becoming one of my favorites on the album.
Hmm?
So yeah, I mean, what do you think? If you can really have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think the one that, because I hadn't really listened, just for context, like from start to finish, the entirety of the album for quite a while. So there were some surprises that I completely forgot about, like that vocal effect that you were talking
Mm,
about. I was like, what the hell? Not in a bad way. It was just, oh, that's really different for them.
mm.
So yeah, no, it's decent. It's like you say, you're going more experimental as the album's progressing. I mean, yeah. So I think so far it's been all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Tracks in, I think it's good, and it's like lyrically, it's quite interesting as well because it's yeah, you're sort of building yourself up. Isn't it like kind of to do with addiction as well?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, which is sort of a common theme with James's lyrics, isn't it? So
This is easily lyrically, you mentioned it earlier, one of Metallica's darkest
mm,
albums.
yeah,
They touch on many different, drug addiction, cancer,
yeah.
deaths in family,
Like
abuse. Say that again?
school shootings.
Yeah, no, it's a
I
really,
really wasn't expecting that to be about, and then when I was reading the lyrics, I was like, oh well, I didn't know this is what this song was about. But yeah, we'll
yeah,
get one later.
yeah. But like vices, like like alcohol addiction, like I mentioned earlier, there's not a happy song on this
No,
album from what I can
even the ones
remember.
that sound upbeat, like yeah, it's just darkness personified. So yeah, like and quite introspective as well, because like in the past, okay, there'd be a few sort of personal songs, but usually it was to do with like the state of the world as a whole,
Hmm.
war and destruction, and you know all that kind of stuff that thrash was built upon. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're going really, especially James is going properly. It's like he's pouring his heart out to the world with this album.
Well, speaking of pouring his heart out, the next song is Until It Sleeps.
Yeah,
I really like this song.
me
The
too.
standout for me is, and bar than that nice little bass intro, being a bass player, it's
Yeah,
always good to hear that. I think
yeah,
Jason Newsted may have used a fretless bass for that. It sounds super clean, that do 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 do. So I really like that. But the part I love, I mean, obviously the lyrics, I believe, about James Hetfield's mother passing away of cancer. You
yeah,
know, Hetfield writes a lot of songs about, you know, the God that failed and all of that.
mm,
He really follows that lyrical theme. Mama said later on,
yeah,
but we'll touch on that in a minute,
hmm
when we get to it, I should say. But the part I love in this song, and you can really, really hear it in his voice, is the it grips you so hard, you know, it hates you. So oh, it's just so good, you know, and the whole it holds you, holds you, holds you.
yeah,
Oh, it's just like you can just really, I mean, it's so symbolic. He's not basically saying, oh, the cancer is eating you away. He refers to it as it
yeah,
is evil. It's eating you from the inside. The way it grips you and controls you. It's just perfect lyric. I just think it's amazing writing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's a good video, this one as well, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah.
one of the few videos that they released from this album, as far as I'm aware, for what I can remember. Anyway,
They did four.
did they? All right, then.
Mhm.
They did four.
Yeah,
Only
Until It
seen
Sleeps,
one.
King Nothing, where they're literally in the
Oh yeah,
woods
yeah,
looking like they've been hunting bears.
yeah,
In like it looks like it's filmed in Russia somewhere.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
Uh,
right, yeah,
there's Hero of the Day and Mama Said. Those are
yeah.
the four
Oh, I
singles.
didn't know they had videos for the last two. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, fair play. Yeah, no, it's carrying on with that and that symbolism that you were talking about, with it being about something, but it could be like about a lot of things. But yeah, like I completely agree. Definitely one of the darker lyrically on this album. You know, I have a vested interest in lyrics for obvious reasons, so I'll get inspiration from that as well. So yeah, another track where James is just like pouring it all out on the table, and yeah, like you say, the intro's cool. I like how it goes back into that intro towards the end.
yeah.
Of, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's bookended with that bass sort of rhythm section. So
Hmm.
yeah, again, it's pretty deep. Like, I don't want to get too sort of quickly into uh like a review kind of opinion, but for me, it's definitely an album of two halves.
Yes, yes, I know what you mean.
This
Yeah.
So far, this is the good half, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway,
No, I know what you mean, but
yeah,
we'll get onto that in a minute.
yeah,
That is then followed up by King Nothing,
great
and
song.
the songs sort of fade into each other if you listen very closely. If you listen very closely,
Yeah,
I love King Nothing.
me too.
We were lucky enough to hear that song live, and as soon as I heard Kirk, or at least I don't know if you were with me, but I remember they played that song live in one of the many times I've seen Metallica. And
Yeah,
as soon as I heard Kirk do that screeching, and the bass comes in, do 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 do, I was like, fuck yeah,
yeah,
it's King Nothing.
yeah, man. I love the fact that they like quite regularly play this song. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, it's
really,
a damn good song.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, definitely one of the stars of this album. If not, there's one or two, but yeah, that, like you say, the way it just that it's that bass as it's sort of building up and building up, building up, and then heavy, man. It's just
Mhm.
really, really heavy, and it's not like fast, but it's a nice, like, you know, crunchy, heavy riffs. Ulrich is just smashing the shit out of
Yeah.
in this one, especially. James's vocals again, just the way he kind of goes up and down in the range on this one. It's anthemic. This song, it's like, all right, here we go. Yeah, like this is Metallica. Obviously, this is a Metallica album, but a lot of songs on this album don't sound like Metallica to me. This is one of the ones that's like, yeah, I'll happily listen to this a lot. So great tune, great
It's
tune.
also it's I 100% agree with you. It's also the first song that appears on the album which has your more traditional guitar solo from Kirk Hammett as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Because the songs leading up to this one, either Hetfield's doing some weird solo stuff, or it's a slide guitar, or
mm,
there's no solo at all.
mm,
So this is like your more, you know, he's got his foot on the wah pedal, he's thrashing away. Really good solo, by the way.
yeah,
But yeah, I love this song. I also like whether it was the intentional or not, but there's like a little nod to Enter Sandman
yeah,
at the end when it's fading out. Yeah, Hetfield sort of mumble, often never,
yeah,
never
yeah.
land.
At the very end, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great song. Love King Nothing. Got not don't have a bad thing to say about it.
No, yeah, totally. Like this would go in like masterpiece if we were ranking songs. At this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's followed up by Hero of the Day. Now, this is a weird song because I can't decide if I like it or I don't like it. It really does depend on my mood. I like the melody, the
Yeah.
do 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 do, the whole mama they
Uh,
try. I actually, now that I think about it, I think I prefer the S&M version more than the actual album
oh yeah.
version.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the song James, he doesn't do a cappella, but there's a part where he's singing and there's no drums, because
Yeah.
the drums quite come in quite early on the album version, whereas this he's singing, it's just him and the guitar, and he sings it right up until the drums don't join in until like the second verse. So that's quite an interesting take of the song. But when it goes to the really heavy part, they layer some sort of weird effects on the drums, I believe, that I'm not a huge
Okay.
fan of.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really know what else to say about it, other than I enjoy it one day and I dislike it the next. So, what's your
Yeah.
opinion on it?
Yeah. I mean, when I listened to it earlier, listened to it back, I thought I like the way the vocal melody builds up, and so it's gone in like he starts off quite quiet, it's quite soft, and then he uses that same melody towards the chorus to kind of really build it up. So yeah, but again, it's just it's sandwiched between two amazing songs. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of an unfortunate placement, I think, for this one, but yeah, it's okay. I think it's all right. But probably one of the songs that could have been cut, I think. But yeah, it's fine. I haven't really got much more to add to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I'm sure there are massive fans of Hero of the Day watching this video, but I don't know. It just really depends on my mood.
Yeah, yeah.
However, with the next song, Bleeding Me, if I
Mm.
was to put together a list of my top 10 Metallica songs, there's a good chance Bleeding Me might make it in. It's my second favorite song on the album. I'm sure
Mhm.
you know what my favorite one is, but
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe.
But I love everything about it, from that clean guitar intro
Yeah,
to the nice sort of clean chords Kirk layers over that main riff. The very light strumming, Lars gently hitting the ride cymbal. Believe it
yeah,
or not, he was still using a ride cymbal at this point after getting rid of it for a couple of album tour cycles. Um, I love the lyrics, love the Hetfield's voice. This song really takes you on a journey.
yeah,
It's like the sort of ballady-esque song on this album.
yeah,
I love the way that riff comes in, the dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
I am the leash, not you. And then it goes back into the chorus again at the end, and Hetfield's just pouring his heart out in the song. You could just really hear it in his voice, that I can't take it, I
yeah.
can't take it. Oh, sorry for my terrible singing,
That was,
everybody. And then there's a
that was a very good
fucking
impression. Yeah,
thank you, thank you. And that's followed up by a fucking great guitar solo by Kirk, and then it cuts back to the clean intro, and it's just such a great song. Yeah, I don't have a bad thing to say about it. I absolutely love it. And I think Hetfield said in an interview, he was asked, what is your favorite song from the Load and Reload era? And he sat there and thought about it for maybe about 5 seconds and said, probably Bleeding Me.
Mm,
That's a song that really means a lot to me.
yeah,
And you know what, James? It means a lot to me too. I absolutely love it. What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I'm completely with you, man. I think I remember either reading or watching that interview, one of the two, or similar one where he was saying that it's lyrically it's like a therapy session for him,
Mm,
like going back because it's basically he's trying to bleed out like basically the alcohol from his system, but obviously that's like the one thing you can take from it. But yeah, he was going. It was like, oh, the next day is like hangover day, and he didn't want to live that life anymore, and you know what I mean. So it's him. Yeah, again, another deeply personal, introspective song, but it's heavy as hell as well. Like towards like coming up with like getting towards like the solo section as well. So
but
yeah,
lyrically, it can fit into any sort of context you want it to.
yeah, exactly. That's good. It's like applicable to many
Mm,
scenarios. But yeah, but the interesting thing about with the leech and the very visceral imagery of that,
mm.
yeah, it's great, man. It's great. It was one of the highlights from the album for me, along with King Nothing and another one coming later on. But yeah, no, I think you I couldn't really put it better myself. The way that you said it means so much to you. So yeah, I totally agree. So it's definitely kind of going like this for me at the moment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's gone back up there. So yeah, man.
Good, good, good. I'm glad to hear it.
Mm.
That's followed up by we sort of entering the deep cut territory of the album now. And because that's followed up by the song Cure,
Mm.
which is a song that I loathed for the longest period of time. I didn't even like it that much when I first heard it. And I really went on this period of just hating that song. It has like this weird Billie Jean-esque drum intro from Lars.
Oh yeah.
There's some cool slap
I
bass
was going to say yeah,
happening midway through the song.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I've sort of softened on the song a little bit now.
Yeah.
I certainly don't hate it anymore. It's kind of like just another song on the album. I
Yeah,
don't find it offensive. I enjoy it for what it is. I'm not like Skip, not listening to it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of just like a nothing song, not a bad song, but not a great song. I don't
yeah.
really have that much else to say about it.
Yeah, again, lyrically, it comes back to the whole thing about cancer, doesn't it? Because like reading along to it, it was it's like everyone needs a cure because everyone has the sickness and stuff.
Mhm.
So he's really going for it with that thing. But
Oh, I thought it was about addiction again.
I mean, it could be as
Mm.
well. Yeah, it could be that. So yeah, again, yeah, it's sort of melding those personal attachments quite a lot. But again, it's another one of the songs I don't hate it. It's all right, and lyrically, it's quite interesting. So, but yeah, at this point, you kind of like rhythmically, it's the area of the album where it's kind of not dragging for me, but it's starting to get. I want another I want another ain't my bitch now to sort of get the adrenaline flowing again. So it's
Yeah,
in
they probably should have followed up the bleeding me with something like wasting my hate,
yeah,
something a bit more up tempo.
yeah. So
Uh
yeah, it's all
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's like just a nothing song, really.
Yeah.
That's followed up by Poor Twisted Me, which is my second, if not my least favorite song on the album. I think this song's terrible. I thought it was terrible the first time I heard it, and I still
Yeah.
think it's terrible. By the way, when you get to this point of the album, the fatigue does start to kick in. This is like song 8, I
I,
think. Yeah, and you're
yeah.
like not even 2/3 of the way through the album. It's a very, very long album. And yeah, I mean, it's got this weird delayed effect on the guitar. Hetfield's got this weird vocal effect on his
Yeah.
voice. It's just a nothing song. Yeah, might be my least favorite song on the album. It's either this one or another one we'll talk about a little bit later. I don't have
Yeah.
anything to say about it, other than it, I
No,
think it's shite.
that should just be the short just for like the whole video. I haven't got much to say about it. It's shite. No, joking aside, yeah. Again, I've never really listened to it before. So it's to do with someone who's like he feels really hard done by, but he's enjoying it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, poor woe is me, but I
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
like the idea of being miserable. So yeah, and that
Congratulations, Sean. You've listened to that song once and you already know way more about it than I do. So,
so, that's the thing. I was like, okay, if musically it's not interesting me, at least let me try and find out lyrically what it's about. So yeah, again, it's not really something I listen to that often, and yeah, that vocal effect where it's kind of just sort of echoing out. It's no, not for me, mate.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is one of those songs. I mean, Metallica wrote 27 songs for Load and Reload, and instead of, I think, yeah, and 14 ended up on Load, and instead of trimming it down to maybe 12 or 11, they put all 14 on. So, yeah, this song should have been left on the cutting room floor.
No,
Terrible song.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah. That's followed up by Wasting My Hate. I really like this song. They were performing it on the Jules Holland show
Oh,
back
really?
in 1996. Yeah, yeah. Metallica's been on the Jules Holland show for quite a few times, actually. If
Okay.
anyone's wondering what Jules Holland is, if you're not in the UK, it was a very popular show at the time in which big acts or smaller artists would appear on what was called the Jules Holland show, and they would play 2, maybe 3 songs off their upcoming album. Yeah, I think this is a great song. Just straight to the point, not very long. Might be the shortest song on the album. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, just balls to the wall from start to finish.
Yeah,
Heavy as fuck song.
yeah. This is one of the few songs that I heard from sort of cherry picked because like getting into this album at the time about 15 years ago, it was like I think it was like iTunes or something like that. Anyway, was like recommending like different songs from different albums, and then I heard this. It just randomly came on. I was like, "Oh, right, yeah, this is cool." Like, what album's this off? Like, Load. I was like, "This could easily be on like the Black album." Do you know what I mean? But it's got that high octane energy that we've been waiting for about 4 hours. So, so, so by that point, yeah, yeah, really good. One of the bangers of the album for me. Again, it's one of the handful that I really enjoy. I could listen to over and over again. I think the story behind it is James, one of James's friends, or like someone that he knows in the industry, was staring at someone who thought was staring back at him, and he was getting really angry. And then he found out, oh, the guy was sleeping. He goes, "Oh, I've just wasted my hate." And then James was like, "Oh, I'll use that for a song, Heavy as All Hell." So, yeah, one of my favorites.
That's followed up by Mama Said. Now, Mama Said is, I think, lyrically and vocally, it's a beautiful song from James. I also like the melody as well, the actual melody and the whole acoustic guitar thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that they bring in like this super heavy country influence
Mm.
during the chorus and then throughout the rest of the song. Now, some people really like that, not really for me. They've really dramatically changed the production as well. Production-wise, it doesn't sound like any other song on the album either. And it sort of loses me a bit. However, and I know you're not, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not a huge fan of this song, are you?
Not really, but yeah, thematically, like reading the lyrics and understanding what he's talking about, hits home for me because obviously he's talking about his mother passing away and stuff like that. So that hit home more listening to it recently than it did like years ago. But musically, yeah, it's not for me.
Well, what you should do is it's on Spotify. They've released a version because, of course, once again, this song went through many different versions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the versions that they were thinking about going with was a version which is just James Hetfield's voice, just one vocal layer, no overdubs or anything, just the main vocal take and his acoustic guitar.
All right.
Nothing else. Super stripped back version of it.
Okay.
And it sounds phenomenal.
Fine. I'll give it a go.
Literally,
Yeah.
give it a go because
Yeah.
that's how he would later go on to perform it on the Jules Holland show. And
Okay.
whenever he would perform it live, they didn't perform the song live many times. I think they've only done it 2 or 3 times, but every time they did, it was literally just James and an acoustic guitar. It sounds amazing,
Oh yeah.
and frankly, it's the
sort of thing.
definitely yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the version that should have gone on the album, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough then. Yeah. Because again, it's so jarring as well because you go from like a hard rock, heavy hitting, wasting my hate, and then all of a sudden this comes out of left field. And again, you can argue, well, that's what makes the album because everything's so different. But there's a line.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, again, like we said before, vocally, lyrically, really strong, heartwarming stuff. But yeah, just musically, it's very. And there's nothing wrong with this. If you're a fan of country, then that's in that genre. Do you know what I mean? But in this album, it just feels wasted for me.
No, fair enough then, mate. That's followed up by, I believe, The Thorn Within.
Yeah.
In my opinion, one of the more underrated songs on the album. I don't hear many people mentioning this song at all. I believe this is Jason Newsted's favorite song from this album,
Okay. Fair
probably
enough.
because it's one of the heavier ones. This is another song that wouldn't be too out of place if it went on the Black album. It's kind
Yeah.
of got like a God That Fails
Yeah.
sort of vibe to it. Very, very heavy and sort of ploddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then there are some parts where the tempo does pick up a little bit, like during the tail end of the chorus.
Yeah.
Some really heavy riffage in this song. I also quite like the lyrics as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it is definitely a filler song. It's not one I go back and listen to a huge amount, but whenever I do, I enjoy it.
Yeah, same here, mate. You pretty much summed it up for me as well. Yeah. Okay, again, it's a nice kind of change of pace from what just came before. See, again, they're sort of doing this, like it's sort of like the snake
Yeah.
boiling a bit. But yeah, I don't have, I'm not, don't really have one bad or one good thing really to say about it. Like just a nonplussed. It's there, you know, you know what I mean. I wish I could go a bit more deep into it, but yeah, lyrically it's decent. Again, I can't really fault the lyrics of this album whatsoever. Like
No, lyrically, it's great.
from a story writing standpoint, yeah, no, but like you say, it's kind of filler. You know what I mean? But then, you know, on an album that's got 14 bloody songs on it, yeah, you know, none of which are that short either, really. So yeah, it's okay. But again, like average.
Yeah, no, fair enough then.
Yeah.
That's followed up by Ronnie. Now I can't decide if it's this song or Poor Twisted Me, which is my least favorite song on the album. Probably Ronnie, because
Mm.
Poor Twisted Me is not a very long song. So you only have to suffer through it for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Ronnie, I've actually seen a lot of people online say this song's actually not as bad as people make it out to be. It's not for me. It's super country heavy. I'm not the biggest fan of country music outside of like Johnny Cash and a few other country artists, Dolly
Yeah.
Parton and all that.
Yeah.
Um, but this song does nothing for me. It's like a weird country meets AC/DC influence. It just falls flat on its face for me. I almost never listen to this song. Even going back and listening to the album as much as I have the past few weeks, when I get to this song, I sort of get like a third of the way and I'm like, yeah, skip, because the next song coming up is bloody amazing.
Yeah, like what I was saying earlier about the sort of the certain themes going through this album. Again, lyrically, you could put these lyrics on like one of like the songs from like or like a almost like a death metal song because the lyrics are all about like a guy goes and shoots up his school.
Oh, it's
But
just the song.
yeah, yeah, it's like a guy. He's okay. I don't know if it's based on a actual one, but it was around the time where there was one, or there was a few going on at the time. And yeah, and there's let me hang on, let me it's the lyrics come towards the end are like basically the last verse.
Is this when Hetfield's sort of talking? He's not really singing, he's more like narrating.
Yeah, towards the end, definitely, because I know obviously he's got that country twang in his voice, isn't he? But hang on, give me a second.
Yeah, Hetfield was balls deep into country music at the
Yeah,
time.
cool. Oh, yeah, there we go. So as well, now we all know why the children called him Ronnie Frown when he pulled that gun from his pocket and they'd all fall down, down, down.
Oh, wow. I
So
think that's the part where Hetfield's narrating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like at first you think up until that point he's just some random douche who's just like a bit weird, and then and then he comes up with like oh by the way he just shot a load of kids. So do you know what I mean? But like when you compare that to the music going,
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but musically, this song's quite upbeat. So
yeah,
it's
it's pretty much as oh yeah country work oh no
yeah.
that's someone fucking not murderer essentially. So pardon my French. So again, like lyrically it's quite interesting, but it's just gets completely like disinterested by the like it's completely just overshadowed by the rubbish music that goes with it. So
Yeah, you're
yeah,
right, because it is rubbish.
yeah,
So yeah, okay, sorry, Ronnie. And now Metallica close this behemoth of an album with a behemoth of a song. That being the Outlaw Torn. Oh, to say I love this song is an understatement. This is my favorite song on the album. Another song that would make it into my top 10 Metallica songs of all time. I absolutely love this song. I have listened to it like probably 1,000 times by now. I never ever get bored of listening to it. It's a perfect song. I just love the moodiness, the groove, the lyrics, the vocals, the melody. I think Lars's drumming is phenomenal in this song. It's
yeah.
so bloody good. And Kirk's guitar solo, I don't know if you'd call it a chorus, but the whole "Hear me and if I close my oh, it's just
Like
so
a bridge
good.
sort of pre-chorus, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
don't know what you'd call it, but it's like a chorus to the chorus type
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And but yeah, just a phenomenal. I love the sound of Newsted's bass. I think he was using Sadowski basses at the time,
Mm.
and the way they go on like that jam.
Yeah,
because it just sounds like a jam. It just
yeah,
sounds
but
like something that was captured in the studio, and it was like,
yeah,
"Oh, keep playing. This sounds great." I'm sure that's not what happened, but it just sounds like a jam.
yeah,
And unfortunately, they had to an abrupt fade out because they couldn't fit the remainder of the song on the album. Now the full version is on the re-released Load Remastered deluxe box set, and it just sounds phenomenal. I absolutely love this song, like Bleeding Me. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. Just a phenomenal song.
yeah, man. No, I totally agree. And it's funny enough, it wasn't until recently when maybe a few months ago, and you showed me like the live version of this that they played relatively recently, and you were like, dude, listen to this. Honestly, the Outlaw Tour, forget what you want about Load, just listen to this song. I was like, yeah, okay, cool, because like, I remember listening to it as part of when I listened to the album the first time, and again, yeah, like when I first heard it, it did sound unfinished because of that fader. I mean, oh, really getting into this, and it's finished. What's going on? And obviously, context helps with that. Yeah, I think again going into like the lyrics of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this basically kind of dedicated to both Hetfield's mum and Cliff Burton?
I mean. Hetfield's one of those lyricists who says it can mean whatever you want it. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can mean
Yeah,
whatever you want it to mean.
yeah,
Um, but there's a lot of theories around it being about Cliff,
yeah,
particularly Cliff Burton.
yeah. Especially with like so I wait my whole lifetime for you, so on I wait all my lifetime for you, kind of thing. So
I mean that's how I interpret it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, and it's definitely gives me pause to return to the album more so because of this song. And yeah, you could argue it could go on, maybe not like the first two albums, but certainly like on a Black album for sure. Maybe even Master of Puppets if you're going on to that kind of, because with Orion it's kind of got a similar pace just without any words. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like they're Orion but with lyrics this time. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
yeah, amazing song, and I'm glad that you've like got me back into it because I never really kind of appreciated it until then, and yeah, it's just a great way to bookend the album really. So I'm not going to argue with anything you say about it because it's great. And again, like I say, it's a long song, but surprisingly, compared to some of the other songs on this album, it doesn't really feel its length because
No, no, it doesn't.
it
It's
get
like
sorry,
even with the extended version now, or the uncut version, whatever you want to call it, it's about 11 and a half minutes long.
yeah,
It's one of the longest Metallica songs ever written,
yeah,
if not the longest. And I don't know, when it's over, I'm like, yeah, it just felt like no time went by.
yeah,
Which is great because that's what you want. You don't want your long song to feel overly long.
yeah, yeah,
So it doesn't outstay its welcome. Yeah, I love that song. I'm also glad that this song gets a lot of praise from Metallica fans, even those who are very skeptical about this album. And people I know personally, they despise Load and Reload, but even they say that is a damn good song, though.
yeah. That belongs on any set list that they play live. It could go on pretty much most of their albums, and it would be you could understand it. So yeah, I've got no arguments for me there, mate.
Perfect. Excellent. And yeah, like you said, great way to end the album.
Yeah,
I think overall Load, from what we've gathered, it's a mixed bag to say
yeah,
the least.
yeah,
For me personally, I'm a bit more forgiving towards it than most people are. I say I would enjoy two-thirds of the album.
mm-hmm.
The way I choose to listen to it is that, I mean, I've got a playlist saved on my Spotify account in which I've removed two of the songs, excuse me, three of the songs, I should say. I've removed Hero of the Day because I think after King Nothing, I'm just gagging for a song like Bleeding Me
yeah,
to appear.
yeah,
And I've removed Pure Twisted Me and I've removed Ronnie. So I have those 11 songs that I either love or can somewhat enjoy for what they are.
mm-hmm.
And I've replaced the original version of Mama Said with the version I mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
the Hetfield's one vocal track and the acoustic guitar, and that's how I choose to listen to Load now. So I enjoy a fair chunk of the album.
yeah. I think that's how I should listen to it going forward as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a good shout, man. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And let's see what they do with Reload next year.
yeah. That'll be probably a shorter deep dive, I think, into that one. But yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
definitely. Okay, moving on from Metallica, we'll touch a little bit upon Iron Maiden. Don't want to spend too much time talking about them because we spoke about them a lot in the previous podcast.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier, we are seeing them tomorrow. What do you anticipate? Is there any particular song you're looking forward to? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this show? Because for those who don't know, this is, I believe, our 11th time seeing Iron Maiden.
Your 11th is my 10th because
Okay, then.
bloody Brixton gig, which I will
Okay.
forever be annoyed about. But yeah,
That was an amazing show, dude.
yeah. No, yeah. I can't believe just how. Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. I mean, I think we said this before. Well, when they announced this tour, that it's going to be quite hard to top the previous two tours that they've done, so set list wise, performance wise, because they kind of definitely played some. Well, for the Future Past tour, anyway, they showed a lot of love, obviously, to Somewhere in Time album, and they generally played from Senjutsu the songs that I enjoy the most from that album as well, and a few of the other, regular classics that you're going to get in a Maiden show. And I thought that was one of the best. And then before that, you had the Legacy of the Beast tour, and that set list was bloody amazing as well. They hadn't played Flight of Icarus and God knows how long, and they brought that one out. They brought back For the Greater Good of God for us about a life and death nerds out there. That was a random one that I never thought they'd play again, to be honest with you. So that was great.
That was the one that came out of left field.
Yeah, because obviously go on, man.
No, carry on.
I was there because you had the Klansman and Sign of the Cross. You think, okay, they played those two at Rock in Rio. So even though I hadn't seen them play that in person, watching that Rock in Rio show countless times, listening to the album, it was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it is live. But yeah, like you said, yeah, for the Greater Good of God was just, I definitely wasn't expecting them to bring that back. And Where Eagles Dare, good old Nico. It's going to be strange not seeing him tomorrow. But
that's actually the thing I'm most intrigued by. I can't help but feel that I'm going to be going into this gig with my critiquing hat on, if you will. And I'm going to be watching Simon Dawson very closely. I've watched more footage they've done recently. It sounds like they've more or less found a tempo they're happy with now.
Yeah.
So I'll be watching him very, very closely, because that's easily the thing I'm most intrigued by. Because Nico was in the band. He was the Iron Maiden drummer. As much as I love Clive, Nico is the Iron Maiden drummer.
Yeah.
So to see them without him is going to feel very odd. First of all, you'll be able to physically see the drummer on stage for once. He's not going to be hidden behind a massive drum kit. That still bugs me to this day that his drum kit is so tiny. I know it's ridiculous. He has everything he needs for Iron Maiden, but I just wish he had a few more rack toms and a few more cymbals.
Yeah.
Or had some good artwork on his drum kit or something like that.
Where's the gong?
Yeah, where's the gong? Get a gong behind there or something. But anyway, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it being outdoors as well. My track record of seeing, or I should say our track record of seeing Iron Maiden live outdoors has not been great. They usually suffer from pretty bad sound, whether it's been at a festival or a stadium or a rugby or the Twickenham rugby ground where we saw them on the Somewhere Back in Time tour. Whereas whenever I've seen them in an arena like Earls Court, which is no longer around, or the O2, they've sounded, or Brixton, sorry, Sean, they just sound amazing.
Yeah.
So
I'm
a bit nervous about that.
I'm not as nervous. I think maybe because it's been so long since I've seen them outside, and I think maybe they must have sorted like that out by now in terms of the sound. They got like a pretty well-to-do sound engineer these days. So
yeah, they do. He certainly for their indoor shows, they've sounded amazing, like really loud, like very loud. My ears were ringing for days after I last saw them, but incredibly clear, has a ton of clarity. Doesn't feel like someone's just shoved a vacuum cleaner in your ear. It just sounds really clear, but very loud and in your face. Like you can feel it. The kick drum pounding your chest.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah, and the floor's rumbling. Unfortunately, I'm more than likely going to have to bail before the encore begins. So that would be just after the song Iron Maiden, because my parents are babysitting. I've got to make sure I get back to them at a decent hour. So, frankly, the encore, I couldn't care less about. Like Aces High, Fear of the Dark, Wasted Years are three songs. Maybe not so much Fear of the Dark, but certainly Aces High and Wasted Years. I mean, I just sort of went, ugh, I really rolled my eyes when I saw that those two songs made it into the encore. Um, and frankly, I just think it sort of lacks a little bit of imagination.
Mm.
Like you're closing with Wasted Years again. You literally just did a full tour of closing with that song.
It's funny. It's kind of like Steve Harris when he started writing the set list. He was really inspired at the beginning, and then towards the end, it was like he dozed off. He was like, "I can't be bothered. I'll just stick those ones in," because
But
those
like,
5 songs are like, what a way to open it. And then you go, "Oh, I'll just default back to that." Like I can understand to an extent having Fear of the Dark in the encore because by that point, because it's obviously summer now, so it gets darker later on. It's just starting to get dark when they play that. Fair enough, but yeah, Wasted Years again. I don't know. Like we said, well, like I said in the last podcast, maybe Adrian's got a thing where he's like, "Yeah, we've got to play that." I don't know who's got a bit of clout with that song because it's his. I don't know, but again, maybe it's just a song that they think, "Oh yeah, thematically, it's like keep your head up high, don't waste your time, always, really, you know what I mean?" So, but yeah, considering it's their 50th anniversary, you'd think there'd be more love to the first album. So you think maybe Running Free, or like you said the other day, Sanctuary. Do you know what I mean?
they're playing two songs from that album, Phantom
Yeah,
of the Opera and Iron Maiden.
Phantom of the Opera. I'm really, really excited to see.
Mm.
It's one of my all-time favorite songs of theirs, and it's also, it's a really good. There's so many different parts of that song that change up, and you've got we bouncing up and down almost to that song. But yeah, and Iron Maiden is Iron Maiden. You know what I mean? It's their staple song. They have to play it every gig. Fair enough. But then you think there are a few other songs on that album that you maybe could have showed love to. Like they're showing the most love on this tour to Power Slave.
They're playing half the album. They're playing
Yeah.
4 songs from that album.
But don't get me wrong, I love the album and I love the songs they're playing from it. But really, like,
Oh, I could take or leave 2 minutes to midnight being played again.
oh, I know,
Get that out the set and
I've got a
die
little,
with your boots in there.
but like, yeah, live it seems fun. But like, again, it's because they haven't played it for a tour, so they've got to stick it back in again. Do you know what I mean? So we're already moaning about it. We haven't even got there. We do like this band, by the way.
No. I mean, Iron Maiden's probably my favorite band of all time.
Yeah,
But
it is.
just don't get me wrong. I mean, the set list it's really good. If this is your first time seeing Maiden, we said this
Yeah,
in the last podcast. My God, you've hit the mother load. This is like the Maiden set list.
yeah,
But for someone who's seen them 11 times,
yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some fans out there who literally follow this band on tour. They see them like 10 or 15 times on the tour and they're happy to hear the same songs over and over again. I'm getting to the point now where, particularly Aces High and Wasted Years, like, why couldn't you put Running Free in there or Sanctuary or
yeah,
Prowler,
yeah,
songs that you literally haven't played in donkey's years? I
yeah,
mean, Maiden are one of those bands they can afford to put way more deep cuts in their set list because people don't just enjoy them for their hits like Run to the Hills and The Trooper and Wasted Years. I mean, imagine if they rocked up and said, "We're going to play like Deja Vu or The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner." People would lose their collective
yeah.
minds over it in a
That's,
good way.
yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we've been a little bit spoiled because they finally played Alexander the Great last time. So I think, okay, fair enough. Stranger in a Strange Land. I hadn't seen that before. Or Caught Somewhere in Time and Stranger in a Strange Land. I hadn't seen them live play that. I know they played it back in the day, but yeah, I think we were overdue a kind of safe-ish set list from them, and being the 50th anniversary, there's some love to the old stuff. But I just thought, yeah, the encore kind of, yeah, I've got no problem leaving before then because it takes me 2 bloody hours to get home from that place anyway. So as soon as I saw that encore, I was like, yep, I'll be pissing off before then.
By the way, if anyone in Maiden watches this video, which I very much doubt they will, I absolutely love you guys.
Yeah,
You're all heroes.
heroes. Yeah,
Yeah, I adore every single one of you.
but come
But
on,
that encore, I was very sad.
yeah, yeah. I will not be sad by missing it to get home before the last train.
I remember when I served Yannick years, I used to work in home base in Brentford, which is a retail store, and I actually served Yannick Gears in
When did
that store. And yeah, I met you. Our friend who worked in the Richmond branch said, "Hey, dude," he phoned me up and said, "Guess who I've just sent over to your store to pick up some sand and cement? Yannick Gears." I was like, "What? Really?" Yeah. And then literally as soon as I turned around, I saw him walk into the store. I think he may have been with his son or whoever it was.
yeah,
And of course, I like best customer service I've ever given a
of course.
customer. Yeah, yeah. I did literally everything for him. And I said, "By the way, Yannick, I'm a really big fan of Iron Maiden, and my first time seeing you guys. I'm seeing you. This was on a Matter of Life and Death
Yeah,
tour. It's like my first time seeing you guys. I can't wait to see you." So, "Oh, that's great. You already got a ticket." "Yeah, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be cheering. I'll be the guy yelling Maiden rules in case you need to spot me in the crowd." And he said, "Oh," and he was like, "Oh no, super nice guy, by the way.
yeah,
Really, really genuinely nice bloke." And he spent about probably because I gave him great customer service. He spent a good solid maybe 5 minutes or so chatting with me. "Oh,
yeah,
are you a musician? What do you do? Are you studying, etc." And I said, "Yannick, could you just do one favor for me? Can you please play Phantom of the Opera live?" Acting as if like I had some clout with him. And he goes, and he laughed. So he was like, "Oh yeah, let me have a chat with the lads and I'll see what we can do." I'm like, cheers. Did he fuck? They
yeah,
they played all of A Matter of Life and Death live, and I was like, "Cheers, Yannick."
yeah, yeah,
You
mate.
literally did the polar opposite of wanted. You
Yeah.
did the polar opposite of what I wanted you to do.
However, it was a great gig.
Oh no,
So
it was. I
yeah,
went in there super salty into that gig, even though I loved the album. But oh my God, I felt like I had an out of body experience at that show. It was so
yeah,
bloody good.
yeah. And again, I'm speaking of Phantom of the Opera. Going back to that, the first time we saw that was at that Made in England show where the sound was absolutely dreadful,
Oh
and it
God.
sounded like they were playing it at like half pace for some reason. So
Just goes to show that bad sound can really, even if the band are performing great, if it sounds awful, it can really make or break a show.
yeah, exactly. So I'm really pumped. I really pumped to see that. And from the footage I've seen, Simon seems to be like doing everything right and almost getting tighter as the tour has gone on from the little clips that people have put up. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I think people need to get over hating on Simon Dawson.
yeah,
He's fine, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. So yeah. The closer I'm getting to the show, the more excited I'm getting about it. And I think no matter what happens, as soon as they come onto that stage, it's going to be I'm fucking going to lose my voice for a
Yeah,
part.
yeah. I've had my moan about it, but I know as soon as Doctor hits, I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah, let's go." I'm so happy they played Aces High. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, for
so
protocol.
my opinion will do a 180. I know it will, but just let me have my moan for now.
Yeah, of course, you've got to get it out of the
Yeah.
way. Yeah, but yeah, bring it on.
Okay, moving on. Sean, give me my monthly wrestling update. What's been going on?
So actually, as we're speaking, SmackDown is on. Well, it was on. Up, I think it started at 6 because they're in Saudi Arabia right now. Because
Oh, really?
Night of Champions is tomorrow, Saturday the 28th, and obviously being in Saudi Arabia, so the time difference is a bit, it's better for us.
Better for us, yeah.
Yeah. Although, funny enough, as I was on my way home, Daniel, the legend that you are, was saying that Netflix, that like the broadcast was all over the shop. Like they started and then it went back to, "Oh, we'll be back soon," and it's been a bit of a nightmare, like with the signal or something like that. And I'm
Oh,
thinking,
I think I saw Daniel. Sorry, Daniel's a friend of ours. He's really passionate about wrestling and pretty much keeps me and Sean in the loop.
yeah,
But certainly keeps me in the loop. Um, yeah, I remember seeing him tweeting or Xing something about that.
so it's like, oh, okay, that's a good start. Saudi money, my ass, and all that. But yeah, so the main thing I'm really looking forward to, and I know it's they're not in their prime anymore, but is John Cena versus CM Punk.
Oh, they wrestling.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
the WWE Championship.
In my opinion, John Cena's best rival he's ever had.
Oh yeah, and he's actually kind of finally brought. He's finally bringing out the best heel version of John Cena that we've been wanting since the turn. Because up until now, it's been pretty dreadful. Let's face it.
Yeah.
it's been really underwhelming. It's all been about, you people, without actually acknowledging the fact that the whole point of the turn was because of Dwayne. Although no doubt knocking back another tequila as we're talking. Yeah. So going back to this whole heel Cena thing, I think when it first happened, the discussion was, okay, who do you want to see a heel Cena against? Because like the dynamics have shifted. So
yeah,
Punk was the first name that came to most people's mind, certainly mine anyway.
yeah.
When you go back to their feud in 2011, like Money in the Bank, and also leading up to when Cena faced The Rock for the second time, and there was a number one contenders match between them back in like 2013, I think it was, which Cena obviously won. And yeah, so there's always been that kind of, oh, what if? And since CM Punk's come back, obviously he was on like a part-time schedule anyway, so they never really interacted. It wasn't until...
When is Cena's last date?
Well, we don't know exactly for sure, but he's doing this thing where he comes out and he says, right, I've only got this amount of dates. I was here, and then the number goes down. I think he's got only 15 dates left.
Oh, wow, so quite soon.
Yeah, and not all of those are like matches either. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can drag it out, because officially he's retiring in December. Well, at least that's what he was saying pre-heel term, when he was just doing interviews saying, yeah, no, I'm going to be back for this year. And then once that's done, once December's done, then that's it. That's the retirement tour over kind of thing. And yeah, so far the run has kind of been underwhelming, and it's felt like he's not really had his heart in it. Like, it's felt quite forced. But recently, now that CM Punk's come into the picture, it's almost like he's brought out a side of him that this is the kind of heel Cena we wanted to see. He dropped this kind of on the SmackDown before. He did like like his own pipe bomb where he put like CM Punk through a table, and then he got up onto the turnbuckle and was saying, "Oh no, the most relevant you've been was for 7 minutes 14 years ago, when you promo on me, and you call yourself CM Punk, but you're not Punk anymore. You're a millionaire. You're Mr. TKO, and you're basically a hypocrite. If you want this title, you're gonna have to go to like basically the one place you said you'd never go to, which is Saudi Arabia." And that was, again, it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a real...
That's a good point, because Punk, I remember when the WWE first went to Saudi Arabia, wasn't he like bitching at the Miz about it?
Yeah, he was like, you can enjoy your blood-covered, go suck a blood-covered dick or something like that. And he's since apologised to the Miz back, and they've sorted it out. But yeah, so Cena's almost kind of bringing out that real-life feeling that some people have about him being a hypocrite for...
I remember CM Punk when he was on the Colt Cabana podcast and said, I will never, ever, he categorically said he will never, ever go back to WWE. And I remember saying to you and a couple of our mates at the time, listen, if Bret Hart can go back, anybody can go back to WWE.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's that whole never say never thing. And we thought...
Well, now it sounds like he's a proper company guy, towing the line type.
Yeah, no, he's coming out like on these like press conference interviews. He's like all suited up and stuff like that. And you think,
press conference?
Yeah, oh no, don't.
For a scripted sport?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay, fine, whatever. But all right.
But the funny about then, when Cena came out, he was in his like hat and shorts and gear and stuff like that. So he's like playing on the fact that he doesn't have to do that because he's Cena kind of thing. So he's... And when he was cutting this promo, actually the fans were chanting for him. It wasn't like the split thing. It was like Cena. So and he was saying, "Oh, the mood's changing." So it's almost like there could be like a double turn in the works. There's rumors of Cody Rhodes maybe going heel because recently.
Sorry, I keep asking questions because I'm out of the loop. What is Cody doing now? I thought he'd be rivaling with Cena.
So they're basically going to be going back to that because they've been doing the King of the Ring tournament. It's not like it was back in the day where it was like a pay-per-view. They've basically been doing like qualifying matches. So Cody Rhodes has now got to like the final of his side of the draw, and on the other side of the draw is Randy Orton.
Oh, he doesn't get a rematch. I thought you lose the title at Mania, you get an immediate rematch.
Well, no, because
the story doesn't demand
that. And he after WrestleMania, Cody kind of sort of like sulked for a bit, and he disappeared for a little while.
Can you blame him? That ending
No,
was awful.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, so then Randy Orton won his side of the draw. So then also at Night of Champions is Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. And then the winner of that wins the King of the Ring. And the King of the Ring winner, since I think they decided a couple of years ago, gets a title shot at SummerSlam.
Okay, well that's quite clever actually.
So you think, okay, well, it's kind of obvious now that Cody Rhodes is probably going to beat Randy Orton, and then he'll have a rematch with most likely John Cena. I can't see CM Punk beating him for it.
No. If Cena's dropping that belt to anybody, it's Rhodes.
Yeah.
Well, he should do because he beat him
Oh,
at
yeah.
Mania.
I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's when you'll see the kind of like the turn back to babyface that Cena's probably inevitably going to do. He's not going to retire as a heel, let's face it.
No.
Yeah, but then obviously in the
It'd be funny if he did, but yeah.
Yeah. Fuck them kids. But then looming in the background, you've got Seth Rollins because he won the Money in the Bank.
Right.
So what I
okay.
And you think, well, he could either go for the World Heavyweight title or WWE title with this new group that he's got that still doesn't have a name.
Who's the world champion?
Gunther.
Oh, it's not on Jey Uso anymore.
No, Gunther beat him for it back.
Oh, good. It never should have been taken off of him. Fuck Jey Uso. I can't stand Jey Uso.
I think the company soon realised, we might be about moments, but
no, I'm sure he's sorry, that's a bit harsh of me. I'm sure he's a very nice bloke and he works very hard, etc.
And he's over.
I can't stand his character. I have no time for Jey Uso's character at all.
No.
I think Yeet is stupid.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that chant, and the fact you've got grown-ass men in their 30s chanting that in the crowd, I just think it's so lame. Yeah, not for me. I'm so glad Gunther beat his ass and got that title.
Yeah, although it doesn't bode well for who he's got coming up next. Next being the operative word. Is that
Goldberg?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bill's back.
Goldberg is back, my friend. Yeah.
Oh no, I can't stand Goldberg.
So they're doing this thing where, because it was rumored that
isn't he like 79 years old now, Goldberg?
At least. At least. He can barely walk to the ring. When he came back, you could see he was already gassed by the time he got to the bloody and he can barely reach the second rope. People are like, oh no, it's just his boots. It's like, piss off with that. No. Come on, man. So he's back because he wants one more match in his home state of Atlanta, and that's where Saturday night main event is going to be. It's basically between Night of Champions and SummerSlam. You've got Saturday night's main event.
Gunther has to bury Goldberg.
Okay, Triple H, if you really don't want to be kind of associated booking wise with a certain father-in-law of yours, then you need to really kind of be as realistic with this as you're trying to make out with these press conferences. And literally, Gunther even said it himself on the last episode of Raw. He was like, you were a flash in the pan back in the 90s. This is 2025. You're like you can't even lace my boots, that sort of thing.
He's right.
He's right. And funny enough, with reactions, even the crowd started kind of giving him a bit of a babyface reaction.
No, I think there is a sense like when Goldberg was last around, he was never forgiven for during the whole booking of the Fiend when Bray Wyatt dropped the title for Goldberg. Yeah. I mean, I think that was the moment I was like, oh God, I can't stand this guy.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I've never ever been a Bill Goldberg fan. I thought his first year in WCW was really the best he had to offer.
Yeah.
Until he got totally exposed by William Regal.
Yeah.
Of all the wrestlers. But I wasn't a huge fan of WCW was the only time I could sort of enjoy him, but even then I just get so bored of the whole he's booked like a monster, his matches only last for 60 seconds. You can only get so much mileage out of that. I thought his first run in WWE was terrible for the most part. Terrible. And then they brought him back. I did think it was quite funny how he beat Brock Lesnar the way he did. That was quite funny. I wasn't expecting that at all.
like especially the way that this guy's just broken the Undertaker's streak, and then he's absolutely destroyed John Cena at SummerSlam with those 16 suplexes, and
Yeah.
then you just have like old Goldberg come back and like beat him in 2 minutes. Obviously, Lesnar would get his win back later on, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the moment, it was just like, holy shit, I was not expecting that. Fair play.
Yeah. But outside of that, I've got no time for Goldberg.
No, because it's just,
Nearly killed the Undertaker.
yeah, not to mention Bret Hart. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that'll be one for Daniel to have a laugh.
What Bret Hart never mentions it, so yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill with that, aren't we? People are starting. There's like a consensus that okay, so if, and I hope to God it's not true, but if Goldberg beats Gunther, then you have Seth Rollins and his boys come in, and basically he's got Bron Breakker and he's got Bronson Reed now in his group. Seth Rollins, and you could do.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that there's like a faction now.
Yeah, which with Paul Heyman, because the whole thing sort of with WrestleMania, it was CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and there was the whole thing about who's gonna get custody of Paul Heyman essentially, and then it turned out that Heyman screwed them both over and went with Rollins, and it's like
the funny thing is with Rollins, whenever I've seen, because with wrestling you can tell when characters have chemistry with each other.
Yeah,
Brock and Heyman just went so well together.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns and Heyman went very well together. And even though he didn't need him as a mouthpiece, Punk and Heyman go very well together.
Yeah.
Whenever I've seen Heyman and Rollins interact, I've never felt like there was real chemistry there between the two of them. Am I reading a bit too deep into this? Or?
No, I agree. You're not the only one. It's quite a common thought, because
really?
Seth doesn't need Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman doesn't need Seth. Like, Seth, he's still doing mouthing off on the mic and stuff like that. And you've got, I don't know, it's a decent spot for Bron Breakker to be in. And I think what they're eventually going to do is build him up to be like the Batista, and he'll be like the breakout star of the group, you would think. But yeah, he went from like sort of Bron Breakker that is running on his own, doing quite well with the IC title, then he lost it, and then he joined this group. But yeah, Seth, it just seems a bit forced, like they're trying to do the bloodline all over again, and it's just not working.
Yeah,
the initial bloodline stuff, like the first sort of 6 months to a year, was great stuff. Don't get me wrong, but after a while that sort of petered out. But yeah, no, it just doesn't. I'm glad that they're turning him heel, because he makes a rubbish baby face as far as I'm concerned. And
is he still wearing those stupid outfits?
He's toned it down a little bit.
Good. I thought he looked ridiculous.
Boots. They're still quite loud color wise, but they look more like suit. He looks more like kind of like a Joker-esque kind of character again, which I think he was pretty good at. But yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't make much sense for me from the point of view that his whole thing was trying to stop Roman Reigns from being, this person with this group who's going to run roughshod over WWE, and that was his whole thing about being Cody's shield at WrestleMania and all this sort of stuff. And now he's kind of doing the same thing himself. And I guess you could say, well, that's the point, because he's a bastard now and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's just when you have this group that's been going on for like 2 months now, still doesn't have a name. Do you know what I mean? So they haven't called it anything yet. And it's basically like kind of demoted Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed to being like, a much beefed up version of J&J Security from back in the day when Seth was heel back then. It's just, they just kind of stand behind him. They're wearing suits, sunglasses. I'm like, no, these guys were their own individual kind of thing. Now, yeah, just.
You say J&J Security, was that like Jamie Noble and?
I can't remember the other one. The other J, but Daniel corrects me.
They were basically like the Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson.
Yeah,
was like Seth Rollins at the time. Yeah, the Stooges.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's kind of like, well, okay, you got them again, but they're just obviously they're on steroids this time. No, I was going to say, yeah. So you've got Seth Rollins looming in the background with this Money in the Bank, and either if Goldberg does beat Gunther, hopefully not, but if he does, then you could have.
If Bill Goldberg beats Gunther, you may as well hand Gunther his P45.
Oh yeah, no,
he will never ever recover from that.
no. And the thing is, again, like I was saying, if Triple H wants to be like his own booker and be more realistic, what you should really do is Goldberg goes for like the spear straight away, tries to jackhammer, kind of gets it, and then Gunther kind of kicks out at 2 and starts laughing at him, and then that's when Goldberg realizes, oh shit, I'm a bit past it now. This guy is something different, and then you have like you could have Gunther put him in like the sleeper hold and just like not put him out that way, and then afterwards, if that is Goldberg's last match, he can then Gunther can just go off with his title, and then Goldberg can just like say piss off to the fans one last time. You know what I mean? So that could happen, but he could also Rollins try and cash in on because he's got the option of Cena as well. And I think maybe on Night of Champions, maybe you could do a thing where he tries to cash in, but then Roman Reigns comes back because he's coming back shortly from his, twice yearly holiday special just in time for SummerSlam. Funny that.
He deserves it.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He's the tribal chief.
Yeah.
And then you could have a thing where Reigns and Rollins have a feud because they're picking up where they left off before Reigns took his holiday. So there's that's kind of interesting at the moment. But
it sounds like there's a lot of moving pieces on the chessboard, so that does sound quite interesting.
Yeah.
Will I tune in to watch? Probably not. It's more interesting to hear it than to actually watch it play out. So
yeah,
for me at least, anyway.
Yeah, especially with hopefully SmackDown's going back to 2 hours soon, so I might give that.
Oh my God, is it 3 hours?
Yeah, it's been 3 hours for like the last few months, ironically, because it was 2 hours and Raw was 3 hours, and then they sort of popped them around because Raw's now 2.5 on Netflix or something like that. But yeah, so that's pretty much up to date on the main event scene. Anyway, you've got other things going on that I'm not really too bothered about. But
fair enough.
But yeah,
here's a question for you before we wrap up. What do you think the main event for WrestleMania will be next year?
Next year,
if you had to make an early prediction.
Yeah, it's hard because
I'll tell you what I think it should be, because they technically have unfinished business, and one has a pinfall win over the other.
Yeah,
I think it should be Cody Rhodes versus The Rock.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes more logical sense. But again, Dwayne's like off his head on tequila most days now, and so
Dwayne needs to go into rehab.
Yeah,
get his house in order.
Yeah,
and realize that you royally fucked up the event last year.
Yeah,
you sort of owe it to try and correct that wrong. You got the pin on Cody Rhodes. You pinned the #1 guy in the company, or the face of the company, and then you bugger off. He has to get that win back.
Yeah,
I know he ended up beating Reigns and standing tall at the end of the day, but you've got this guy who is not even a part-timer. You can't even call The Rock that. He shows up so the gap in between his appearances is so wide that you can't even consider him a part-timer anymore. And I think he owes it. He's still in shape-wise. He's in amazing shape.
Yeah, and he did pretty well in that tag match.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, he had Reigns sort of helping him out and the other two, but he was still, more active than I thought. He didn't seem that gassed compared to when he gave them a hole at rock bottom.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad shout. I think realistically, I'm not going to put my eggs in one basket with that one.
No, that's what I think it should be. I don't think it will happen.
Yeah. I think potentially Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, if they're doing that whole thing of Breakker being like the Batista to Rollins' Triple H, that might be one of the matches.
That's a night one headliner.
Oh yeah. Who do you go with? Punk and Roman, maybe?
You don't think Rhodes will headline?
Oh yeah. Oh, do you mean headline? I was just thinking of other big matches that you could...
No, main event. Who will main event? The main event of WrestleMania is who closes night 2. It's not night 1. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
The headliner is whoever closes night 2.
Yeah. God, just bring Austin back. He wants one more match anyway.
Oh my God, we've got to do our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's a bit early to tell. But I mean, obviously, Rock and Rhodes makes sense. Maybe they'll ever get to the Rock and Roman match that they have been trying to book for the last 3 years. Who knows?
Okay, great. You happy to leave it there?
Yeah, man.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you everybody for watching. We hope you enjoyed the podcast episode. We're going to continue doing these probably once a month, something a bit more laid back where we shoot the breeze and we really enjoy doing them. Please leave a like and comment. It really helps the channel out. Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Yeah, anything you want to say, Sean, before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, thanks very much for tuning in as always, and for your comments and likes and suggestions are always welcome. So, what are you saying, Tom?
What I'm saying, Sean, is everybody have a really good day and hope Bill Goldberg does not beat Gunther.
and that the Maiden gig doesn't suck.
Fingers crossed. I don't think it will do, but
Yeah.
just fingers crossed in case. All right, cheers, everybody.
Bye.